Good morning.
How are both of you today?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day here and ready to learn about winterizing your home.
Yeah, ditto.
All right. So where are you guys joining us from?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You don't have a whole lot of winter there, do you?
Well, it can sometimes be brutal and get down to about 60, but otherwise, no.
Well, I guess most of this stuff would apply, if you're trying to keep things cool too. So,
Okay. I'm in, so
Oh, sorry, Tara.
could you say that again, Laura? Where are you coming from?
sorry, I'm in Georgia, but my husband and I have been looking at homes in Maine, and we both grew up in Ohio, so we know winter, but in
Winter.
time, and I don't know what would be specific, to think about in Maine. And then I
Right.
noticed for seasonal versus year round, and so I
Yeah.
figured I would learn whatever I could that might help us.
Yeah. What part of Georgia are you in?
We're just like Atlanta. I mean,
Yeah.
it's called Decatur, but it's
Yeah.
Atlanta. So we're just like that much east, of Atlanta. Yeah.
I was in Georgia for quite a few years down in Savannah.
Oh, okay. I've been there, and it's really pretty, but we
Yeah.
don't have quite the same ambiance here that they do there.
Yeah. And Bo, are you thinking about buying a house in Maine too?
Thinking about it. Yep.
Oh, great. We need people here. We don't have enough people. I mean that in all seriousness. We're short of just about everything here. So we welcome people.
Well, thank you.
So I guess we'll get started. So and most of this stuff will be, if you buy a historic home or if you're in a historic home, most of this will be, so you're going to do this in the fall, and then you're going to do it again in the spring. And as you're doing this, you're going to be developing your cyclical maintenance plan, and you're going to get a familiarity with your home and develop your preservation plan. And you're just going to, unfortunately, very often we encounter people who they haven't looked around their house in many years, and they just don't have a good understanding of what's going on, where the problems are, until it's a very serious and very expensive problem. So a big part of this is just, yes, it's about keeping your home comfortable and secure when the weather is bad, but it's also just about taking the time to take a look around and see how everything is reacting to changing weather conditions, and especially with changes in rainfall, snowfall these days. It's more important than ever, because things are going to react differently than they have in the past. So it's important to keep up on those things. Buttons aren't working. No. I'm trying to move the slide, and it's. There we go. So basically, it's just going to be, looking around your house, climbing around, cleaning stuff up, and keeping keeping good records, keeping notes of what kind of things are going on, and keep that in just your basic your home file, so you can know the changes from season to season, see what the problems are. So basically you're going to need a notepad, camera, binoculars if you have some really stylish binoculars like this gentleman has. Don't know where to buy those. I wish I did, because they're pretty fantastic. A lot of the stuff is just basic hand tools. Some of the stuff I recommend hire a pro if you can, for especially the stuff on the roof. And if you have a drone, it's a great opportunity to kind of get those high elevation looks at the parts of the home you can't get to, and you can do away with needing a ladder and all that stuff. You can just fly your drone around. So what I recommend is just sort of taking a bottom up approach. Start with the outside, because a lot of debris collects around the foundation, and you don't want to have good habitat for mice and squirrels and voles and moles and all that kind of stuff. So keeping that clean is really important, because the wildlife are always looking for a warm place, so they're going to try to come in the house when the weather gets bad, and they can do a lot of damage once they get in and start making nests and stuff, and they can be hard to get rid of. So just raking leaves around the foundation, just doing that step will give you kind of an idea of what the foundation conditions are like, where you might have ponding water, where things are not draining well. You want to make sure to remove all your hoses and disconnect your irrigation systems, and so all that stuff doesn't freeze, because once it freezes, it can cause some significant damage. Prune branches and limbs away from the house at least a couple of feet, even more if it's a larger tree. But you just want good airspace, good circulation, so things can dry out. Winters are a little wetter here than they used to be. The last few years anyway, it doesn't seem to get as cold. So you've got more of a more unpredictable freeze thaw patterns. So it's you always want to keep an eye out for that standing water. If you have gutters on the house, make sure the downspouts are clear so everything drains properly. If you don't have gutters and you're just managing the water runoff from the roof at the ground, make sure all that is draining the way it should. And then your steps and walks can be very, very treacherous in the winter time. Once the ice builds up, I've taken a couple of spills on granite steps, and it's not fun. So you just make sure the stones themselves, if you have stone steps, are secure. If there's any rot on your wooden steps, if the handrails are starting to rot, get them repaired or repair them yourself. Make sure your shovels and ice choppers and snow blowers you've got them all, and they're all working properly. Plenty of ice melt. Winters are a little icier here than they used to be. There's not as much snow, or at least that's what it seems like. But there's more ice buildup from that unpredictable freeze and thaw cycle. And make sure all your lighting is working well, because it's we're looking at sunsets at about 4:15 right now. So it just feels like it's dark all the time. So lighting is critical, and just making sure you can keep your footing, making sure there aren't any injuries. Same thing with your porch decks. If you notice any squishy boards or anything like that, try to get those fixed before any further damage is done. There's a lot of repair products available now that didn't used to be available, so a lot of times it's not even a matter of these invasive repairs. It's just sort of keeping things in good repair and addressing those small repairs as necessary. As you're moving up the walls, once you've gone around the foundation, you're going to check all the windows, check for holes, leaks, drafts. You want to try to address all those to keep the cold air out, the warm air in. Before you put up the storm windows, check your window sashes. If you see missing putty or cracked putty, it's much easier to repair that as needed rather than waiting for a full window restoration project, which are very effective but also very expensive. So if you can, one of the things we tout is that historic windows are repairable and maintainable, which replacement windows aren't. Check for soft siding if you have wood siding, especially at the corner boards, at the water tables, around windows, that kind of thing. You'll eventually, once you know the house, you'll know where those problems start. They seem to always start in the same spots. Window casing at the bottom towards the window sill is always a spot for water to collect, and the wood can get a little soft there. So be on the lookout for all that stuff. Storm doors, be switching out your screen doors for storm doors. Hopefully you have some nice historic storm windows and storm doors that you can put on that are very attractive. And then, same with the foundation, look for places squirrels and birds can enter when they get in your attic. They love to burrow into the insulation, and it just makes a mess. Watch out with spray foam. It's effective at sealing leaks, but it can also cause some problems if you don't use it cautiously, or especially around windows and doors. We'll get into that a little more later. So I recommend just, if there are cracks around windows, you just use like an acrylic latex caulk or something like that. It's easy to work with, and doesn't cause any lasting problems that you might not anticipate. If you're brave, if you're confident, get up on the roof. I don't recommend it for everybody. I'm doing a roofing project for my brother as we speak, and I haven't done one in a while, so it's a little more that I should have gotten into. But sometimes you commit to things in the springtime, and by the time fall rolls around and you're trying to get things done before winter, you're like, oh, I got to do it now. So, and what you're looking for is if any limbs have fallen over the summer, if there are any large overhanging branches, that you can get those trimmed away. Check all the flashing very carefully, because it's usually where the problems start, in a valley, around a chimney, something like that. The flashing can, depending on the material it's made out of, it can rust. It can get some holes in it from impact damage from falling limbs. Check the roof material itself. If it's asphalt, it might have some signs of wear that mean it could cause some leaks as snow and ice are building up on the roof. Look for, if you're lucky enough to have a slate roof, you look for broken slates. If you have a metal roof, you're looking for holes in the metal, anything like that. If there's a lot of algae or moss on your roof, although sometimes it looks really nice, it's not great. So it's really best to get it cleaned off. Depending on what it is, there are some treatments that you can put on roofs to kind of inhibit that. You use all that kind of stuff cautiously. If your roofer suggests it, just do a little research, find out what it is. Find out if there are any. There's always a lot of miracle products on the market. Some of them work well. Some of them work well initially, and then 15 or 20 years from now, they cause some problems, or they don't function as well as people anticipated. and the only way to test them is to get them out on the market. So you don't really want to be the guinea pig with those kind of things. And again, if you have gutters on your house, make sure they're clean. Make sure they're draining properly. If they're not draining properly, they'll build up with ice. Once they get a big buildup of ice in them, they can sometimes get up underneath the ice can build up underneath the roofing material and push it up, and can cause, significant damage. So make sure all that is in good condition and functioning as it should.
May I ask 2 questions about roofs and gutters?
Sure.
We tend to, in Georgia around here, have more like the oak trees, kind of the flat leaves. And
Yeah.
so those gutter guards, are getting to be a big thing because,
Yep.
the leaves will come off of there. But I
Yeah.
noticed a lot of places in Maine, it's the pine trees. And I think those pine needles kind of want to, go in between
Yeah.
those leaf guard, kind of that
Yeah.
metal put over there. So is that anything to consider or not consider for houses in Maine?
It can help. I mean, it kind of depends on what kind of trees you have close to your house.
Okay.
Sometimes you're right, especially the pine trees here, the white pines. The needles are much smaller than they are on those the Georgia yellow pine. So around here, it's probably even more of a consideration.
Okay.
And the other thing is, if you do get, gutters are kind of when they work pretty well, and on some particular styles of houses, they're appropriate. Other times they cause a lot of problems that you wouldn't have if you didn't have gutters.
Okay.
And sometimes if you put those gutter guards on and they do build up with ice, it just mangles them anyway.
Okay.
So it's kind of there's not 100% answer one way or the other. It just kind of depends on local conditions and style of your house. So it's a good question.
And then with roofing, a house that we did look at in Maine had a wood roof, like what is that? Cedar.
Cedar, yeah.
And one of the recommendations would have been on that house to have the roof cleaned, like what you were talking about. And with the roof, is it, when they clean it, are they basically power washing? Is there like a sealer or some type of a, not tongue oil?
Usually they will use, I wouldn't recommend power washing on that. Usually, in most cases, power washing is best used very cautiously, because those high pressure power washers can cause a lot of damage. I would, in the case of cedar, they'd probably put some sort of fungicide on it or algicide. There are some products. One that comes to mind is this product called D2. It inhibits the growth of biological organisms and stuff like that. It usually lasts for 6 months to a year, and then you have to apply it again.
Okay.
It's a good product, and there are probably hundreds of other products that are similar. And it can extend the life of your cedar roof. But cedar's got a limited lifespan anyway. It's probably at best, it's gonna last about 25 years. And then it will have to be replaced.
Okay.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful roof. It's just, it can be a little more maintenance than other types of roof.
Okay. If you put that fungicide on the roof and you have like the rain and things kind of washing down, do you have to worry about that then getting into like the septic system or anything like that? Is that
not once it's dry.
Okay.
Once it dries on the surface, it should be fine. If it's probably a slight concern if somebody applied it and immediately after there was a big thunderstorm.
Okay.
But even then, it's not a huge concern.
Okay.
But check the manufacturer's recommendations and make sure whoever's applying it is following those recommendations.
Okay. Thanks.
So once you get off your roof, um, as you go inside, install your interior storms, which we all love around here. They work very well. They're non-invasive. They allow you to keep your historic windows. They're reversible, which we love. They're effective. A lot of studies show that between exterior storms and interior storms, your historic windows can perform pretty much on a par with replacement windows. So we recommend interior storms all the time. So, and they're, if you're handy, they're pretty easy to make. If you're not handy, there are some organizations around that can make them for you. There's some commercial products on the market if you want to get really nice ones. If you want to get glass interior storms and a mahogany frame or something like that, you can get those too. So there's a lot of ways to go about doing that, but they're very effective, and the simple ones are very inexpensive. If you combine those with insulated drapes, our gentleman here has no window dressings at all, which is a little harsh. But insulated draperies can make a big difference. And just sealing up those drafts around the windows can help a lot. So careful again with the spray foam. The guy in the upper left seems like he's just sealing that door shut so it will not open again. And the problem, even with the spray foam that's designed for windows and doors, if you put a little bit too much in the space, when it expands, it pushes the door jamb so that the door or window doesn't function the way it's designed to, because it bows out the jamb a little bit, and then door sticks, and it can be almost impossible to remove without, sometimes you have to take out the entire door jamb, remove the spray foam, and put the door back in. So and don't forget, if you have fireplaces that aren't in use, these can be a significant loss of warm air up the chimney. I mean, that's what they're designed for, updrafts, and they work very well for that. So similar to the interior storm windows, there's a lot of different ways to go about making those or buying those. You can get creative with it. I've seen some made of wood, some made of fabric, made of different types of panels or artwork, or I mean, however you want to do it. It's just good to have something, and you can make it removable. So if you do want to use the fireplace, you take it out, you use the fireplace, and you put it back in when the fire's out. General interior stuff is replace those outdated thermostats. I mean, there's still a lot of them around that last a long time. So a lot of people just never really replace them. If you get a programmable thermostat, a smart thermostat, even though they may be listening to our conversations, they can save a lot of money on energy. They're just you can really dial in how you want your heat system to work with those, and then once you get it set up, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can control them with your cell phone. They're really nice. Make sure all your smoke detectors are in good shape, and especially carbon monoxide detectors, because if you're going to have the furnace on, fireplace, wood stove, all those things going in the house, it's really easy for not only the risk of fire, but sometimes you get just smoke backing up in a wood stove. and it will give you kind of that early warning that something's going on.
Mhm.
Carbon monoxide, we all know, can be very dangerous. So just make sure all those are functioning properly and in good shape. I stayed at my mom's house last winter, 2 o'clock in the morning, this smoke alarm started going off. I took one down and looked at it and it said, good until, October of 2003, which is when she built the house. So, just make sure they're current, they're updated. And make sure your fire extinguishers are where they're supposed to be. They didn't move around. They're fully charged. I'm sad we can't get these amazing fire grenades anymore. I don't know what they were filled with, but you could throw that glass sphere at the fire and hopefully put it out. Just another indication of, people used to do things with much more style than we do now. And check under your sinks, bathroom vanities, kitchen sinks. A lot of times where the plumbing goes through the walls, nobody ever sealed it up. It can get very cold, very drafty underneath, your kitchen sink. And that is a spot where spray foam is great for sealing up those pipe penetrations, penetrations for electrical conduits, all that kind of thing. So feel free to use it there. It's not going to do any damage and will also help to keep wildlife outside. Or inside, I guess, if you have a pet mouse or something. So once you go down, when you go down into the basement, look for water. I mean, it's basements are all about water. If there's water getting in, there's usually other stuff getting in too. That damp basement can make the whole house feel like it's just make it very uncomfortable. Not to mention the moisture can cause all kinds of problems with mold, mildew. The drier the basement, the better. I mean, the picture on the lower right is just, that is like this beautiful, ideal basement. It's clean, it's well lit, it's dry. There's even they've got a carpet on the floor, and it just looks inviting. Not so the basement on the upper left, which just looks kind of musty looking, and there's a mysterious cooler there. I don't know what's in it. Probably has a lot of drafts, a lot of leaks. So it's worth spending a little time in your basement and just fixing it up. So it's something you want to. It doesn't have to be a rec room or a finished basement, but just a clean basement. It can be an overwhelming task, but it's important. And then you'll have a good idea of what's going on down there. Don't forget to have your furnaces and water heaters serviced. Make sure all your vents are clear, your filters are clean. Dehumidifiers are in place if you have them. Sump pumps are working properly. If you have a bulkhead that goes to the exterior, don't forget to insulate that. It can be a significant source of heat loss. And yeah, make sure all your insulation is in good shape and where it's supposed to be. Don't, and as always, looking for signs of squirrels or rodents getting in, anything like that. Attics are kind of the same thing, light them up, get some good lights up there so you can see what's going on. They don't have to be creepy. creepy dark spaces. Although, I mean, if you like them like that, you just shut the lights off and it's okay. It's, it's your choice. Squirrels and bats and raccoons love attics, so be on the lookout for them. Don't try to get them out yourself. Call pest control people. They will get them out quickly, humanely, and usually they'll seal up the holes they're coming in through. So they're just, just like you, they're looking for a warm place for the winter. Look for leaks, especially in the, if you have valleys in your roof or dormers or anything like that. Look, like we said, for the roof, the flashing is susceptible to damage. So, look in those areas that would have flashing where a vertical plane, like the edge of a dormer, would meet the roof deck. A lot of times those areas can kind of collect water and deteriorate faster. Chimneys are notoriously, that's a lot of times the leaks will start around chimneys. If you don't catch them, they'll just, cause a lot of rot problems. So look around the chimneys. If you see water staining, you'll know you have a problem you need to address. Try to get a roofer over there. It's not really the kind of thing most people want to take on by themselves. And as always, we say good maintenance is good preservation. So when you get all this into your seasonal cyclical maintenance plan, you're doing good preservation work. And your house will be, your house will stay in good shape indefinitely, just for a minimal amount of effort, and just taking the time to look around, inspect everything. I'm sure there's more that you could do if you have one of these grand old houses with a belvedere on the roof and massive chimneys and two-story bay windows. I mean, masonry is prone to its own kinds of problems. If you start to get water in the masonry and you get freezing and thawing, it can be very damaging. So a lot of it's just getting eyes on your house, and going over it and being familiar with it, and doing that twice a year, wintertime and springtime. You can, or fall and springtime, and then you can enjoy yourself in the summer, and if you're adventurous in the winter with winter sports and all the great things Maine has to offer. So, any more questions?
If we want to have some of that work done, what would be good resources to find people to do that work?
Maine Preservation, we have our Preservation Pros list. Sometimes your good bets locally are the local hardware store, the local historical society, the local a lot of good contractors just work on word of mouth.
Okay.
But it's important to be educated as a homeowner, so that they're not trying to sell you stuff you don't necessarily need.
Right.
It's always best with historic houses to take as the gentlest means necessary, the lightest touch you can, without without causing undue damage. And ask your neighbors who they've had good luck with, and it can be challenging. Good contractors, sensitive contractors, are in short supply, so it can definitely be challenging. And Maine is one of those states. There are some pretty remote areas where it's tough to get people up there to do the work. but it just, can take time and take some effort.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
This gave me enough to think about, and I don't think this, I remember as a child, my dad kind of seasonally, going around the house and checking
Yeah.
things. It doesn't, like, that's not something my husband really thinks about. I don't know. I mean, here, it's mostly about the heat in the summer and keeping the house.
Yeah.
Cool. Winters aren't so much,
Right.
but yeah, this is very comprehensive. I think this was
Oh,
great.
good.
Screenshots of your slides when you had those up, so I
Okay.
could to those. So
Well, and
yeah.
feel free to contact us if you
Okay.
have any questions.
Yeah.
Contact me in preservation.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember living in Georgia. There was much less of this sort of rhythm of the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were some some slight seasonal differences. It got really hot in the summertime and colder
Mhm.
than I expected in the wintertime. When I first moved down there, it was, a little cooler than I really thought it was going to be. But it's a little different. The seasons are a little more gradual, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then the last few days here has been really unseasonably warm.
Mhm.
I feel like we're going to pay for that a few weeks.
Enjoy it now.
Right.
Well, thank you. This was good. I'm glad I kind of debated because I don't have a historic home yet that I'm.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is good stuff to even think about when we're looking to. So
Oh, good. Good. And
Oh, that's great.
few resources. Historic New England keeps a great series of white papers
Okay.
that are they cover most of the topics that you will need
Okay.
for a historic home. The preservation briefs from the National Park Service are kind of our go-to documents for all this stuff. I think everything kind of starts there and sort of spreads out and gets a little more detailed based on local conditions and that
Okay.
kind of thing. So
Okay.
I'm not sure the exact number of preservation briefs, but there's a lot of them, and they cover, they get into specifics of, historic masonry, roofing materials, building reuse, weatherization, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
So
There we go. Okay.
all right. Well, thank you all for
Thank you.
stopping in.
Jonathan, there's a question in the chat about vermiculite in attics. Any thoughts or suggestions?
You have to be careful with it. A lot of the older vermiculite could be contaminated with asbestos. I would recommend that if it was put in back in the 70s, it may not have been put in very, very conscientiously. There were a lot of insulation efforts back then that weren't up to modern standards, and they can kind of trap moisture and cause some other problems. So without seeing it or without knowing any details about it, I would suspect it should come out of there and be replaced with some cellulose or something like that. Usually vermiculite they can just kind of vacuum out, so it's not really difficult to get rid of. They just use a heap of vacuum it out. It goes into appropriate bags and containers, and it's disposed of properly. I wouldn't try to do it yourself.
Hi there. I was the one who posted the question about the vermiculite. Hi. Thank you for this information. This has been wonderful, first of all.
Okay.
But I suspect the vermiculite was put in before the 70s because we have an addition also that was put on in the 70s, and that has all the pink fiberglass
Okay.
insulation in it. So
Right.
I anticipate in the older part of the house that the vermiculite was put in much before that.
Right.
But do you think there's value in removing it, or should we just let it go? Or is there a great value in removing it, or no?
I would talk to, somebody in your area who's where are you located?
I'm actually located here in Yarmouth.
Oh, good. It probably has lost most of its insulating ability, if nothing else.
Okay.
And you might want to, you can have it tested to see if there is actually asbestos in it. If there's asbestos in it, and disturbing it can be more hazardous than just leaving it in place. So it's kind of you have to kind of weigh it out. If you send me an email, I can send you a few resources about people you could talk to about seeing about removing it.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Great. Anything else?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you all for coming. And we haven't done one of these rehab labs in quite a while. We were doing them a little more often during the lockdown to give us all something to do. But so I think we're brainstorming, thinking about doing some more. So if anybody has any suggestions, we'd love to hear them. Things you want to know about, things you want to learn about, things you want us to learn about. We'll be happy to entertain all those ideas.
Okay.
So I thank you again all for coming.
Mhm.
And we're a little ahead of schedule.
There you go. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Well, have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.